April 15, 1912, 2:20 a.m. The Atlantic is a flat, black mirror. 1,500 souls are about to be erased. But the tragedy isn't that they died. The tragedy is how they chose to spend their final minutes. Welcome to Psyche of Power. Today, we strip away the Hollywood romance and the Celine Dion soundtrack. We are looking at the Titanic as a cold, clinical social experiment. In a crisis, do we become animals, or do we become something much more dangerous? Do we become polite? This is the panic hierarchy, and by the end of this video, you'll realize that in a disaster, your greatest enemy isn't the environment. It's the person you think you are. Act I, the illusion of order. The first 60 minutes of The Sinking were defined by a terrifying psychological phenomenon: silence. There were no alarms, no PA system. Most passengers felt a slight jar. Their brains immediately defaulted to normalcy bias. Normalcy bias is the refusal to plan for a disaster that has never happened before. The ship was unsinkable. Therefore, the tilt isn't a threat. It's an inconvenience. Here we encounter our first psychological experiment. The Smoky Room Study by Latani and Darley. When people are in a group, they don't look at the fire. They look at each other. If everyone else is acting calm, you conclude there is no danger. This is pluralistic ignorance. On the Titanic, the elite were trapped in a cage of their own sophistication. To scream was to lose face. To run was to be uncivilized. The social script of 1912 was rigid. You don't break the script, even if the stage is burning or sinking. But beneath the surface, the hierarchy of panic was already forming. Who gets to live? The answer isn't the rich. It's more complex. Cognitive reversal, number 1. The third class didn't die because they were locked away like the movies suggest. They died because of spatial cognition and information asymmetry. If you don't speak the language of the crew, and you've never seen a map of the ship, your reaction time is effectively 0. You aren't panicked, you're just lost. Now, let's get into the hardcore data. Economists Bruno Frey and Benno Torgler analyzed the survival data. They found something shocking. British passengers were 10 cents less likely to survive than Americans. Why? In 1912, the British were the masters of social scripting. They waited in line. They followed the rules of ladies and children first, to a suicidal degree. They chose etiquette over evolution. The Americans, coming from a frontier culture of individualism, were more likely to break the script. They saw the boat. They took the boat. The result: lifeboats left the Titanic with 400 empty seats. This is the Titanic paradox. People died because they were too good to survive. Act 2, the anatomy of sacrifice. Let's talk about the band. This isn't a story of heroism. It's a story of auditory masking. Why did the captain order the band to play ragtime? To prevent panic. But by preventing panic, he suppressed the fight or flight response necessary for survival. The music acted as a psychological sedative. It told the passengers, if there's music, the world hasn't ended yet. Then there's Benjamin Guggenheim. He famously said, "We've dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." This is moral licensure taken to the extreme. He traded his biological life for a social legacy. He was performing for a history he wouldn't live to see. This brings us to a rare concept, the Lady Macbeth effect. We have an innate drive to keep our moral self clean, often at the expense of our physical self. Captain Edward Smith, a man with 40 years of experience. He didn't issue a general alarm. He didn't organize the lifeboats. He went into a state of cognitive lock-up. When the brain is presented with a problem that exceeds its processing power, 1,500 people vs. 20 boats, it sometimes just stops. While the elite were playing gentlemen, the workers in the boiler rooms were facing a different hierarchy, the hierarchy of necessity. They stayed so the ship wouldn't go dark. This is individuation. They weren't men anymore. They were parts of the machine. As long as the lights were on, the illusion of the unsinkable remained. The firemen were the ones powering the very trap that was killing everyone. You've been told the Titanic was a scene of mass panic. That's a lie. Modern disaster research shows that social freezing and affiliative behavior are much more common. People don't stampede, they huddle. We are social animals. In the face of death, the group identity becomes more important than individual survival. If the group is staying, you stay. The Titanic wasn't a riot. It was a 2-hour-long, very quiet funeral for the Edwardian era. Acta art, the biology of the abyss. 2:10 a.m. The social script finally shatters. Now, we enter the realm of terror management theory. When the social order is gone, what replaces it? At this moment, the panic hierarchy flips. Status means nothing. Money means nothing. Your vestigial reflexes take over. The brain's prefrontal cortex, the part that cares about being a gentleman, shuts down. The brainstem takes the wheel. This is the cold shock response. When you hit 28-degree water, you don't swim. You gasp. You inhale the ocean. You die in 60 seconds. 1,500 people in the water, but only one lifeboat returned. Why? This is diffusion of responsibility. Everyone in the boat thinks someone should go back. But because everyone thinks it, no one does it. They weren't monsters. They were victims of cognitive dissonance. If I go back, I might die. If I stay here, they die. I am a good person, so I must stay here to save the people in this boat. The ocean is a perfect psychologist. It reveals the exact weight of your morality. Cognitive reversal number 3. The sinking of the Titanic actually saved more lives in the long run by destroying the social script. It gave birth to the Salas Convention. It replaced etiquette with algorithm. We don't trust gentlemen anymore. We trust systems. But has our psyche really changed? Or are we still sitting in the onest-class lounge, listening to the band, while the iceberg of climate, or death, or war, scrapes against our hull? The Titanic is not a ghost ship. It is a mirror. It shows us that under enough pressure, even the strongest social structures are just salt and rust. We like to think we would be the hero, the American who jumps, the survivor. But statistics suggest most of us would just wait for permission to live. Let's talk about survivor guilt. Many who lived wished they hadn't. Bruce Ismay survived, and for the rest of his life, he was a social pariah. He broke the script. He took a seat in a boat. Society punished him more for surviving than it punished the builders for the lack of boats. This is the cost of deviance. On the Titanic, the king was the first to fall. The polite society died because it could adapt to a biological reality. Look at the data again. Women and children survived at higher rates.
Yes.
But only if they were in onest and tuned class. The panic hierarchy is always intersectional. Class dictates your cognitive load. If you have money, you have the mental bandwidth to think. If you are poor, you are too busy surviving the now to plan for the next. The technology failed, the culture failed, the psychology. The psychology did exactly what it was evolved to do. It protected the self-image until the very end. Who am I? That is the question the Titanic asks every passenger. We are all passengers on a ship that is, statistically speaking, going to sink. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not in 100 years. But when the tilt happens, which script will you follow? Are you experiencing pluralistic ignorance right now? Is the room filling with smoke? And you're just looking at me. We are the mice. The Titanic was the maze. The water was the variable. To understand the Titanic is to understand the fragility of the civilized mind. It didn't just sink a ship, it sank a century of certainty. Evolution doesn't care about your tuxedo, and it certainly doesn't care about your gentleman's code. The water is 28 degrees. The stars are indifferent. Nitishke knew. The Titanic was the abyss looking back. We analyze the wreckage to find the black box of the human soul. Why didn't he jump? Because he was the ship. The information gap is the ultimate executioner. Power is the ability to define reality. On the Titanic, reality was redefined by the ocean in 2 hours. The music has stopped, but the hierarchy remains. If you want to see the world through the lens of hardcore psychology, you know what to do. Ask yourself in a crisis, are you a gentleman or are you a survivor? Because the iceberg is always there. It's just waiting for the right degree of normalcy bias. Don't let your social script be your death warrant. This has been a Psyche of Power deep dive. Stay sharp. Stay uncivilized when it matters. See you in the abyss.